Well. It's another great Wednesday night where I get the opportunity to come and talk a little bit of football, a little bit of life. Tonight, Teague's Take, we're glad that you guys are here and checking in and listen to it. Make sure you give us some likes, some follows. You can find us on social media at Teague's Take on pretty much every platform, Teague's Take Podcast. Or if you want to download this and record it or listen to it later, you can find it on any one of the channels, your favorite podcast channel. We're out there for you. So just make sure that you subscribe to those and download those. It's kind of fun to watch to see who's listening. Tonight, it's going to be a little bit different. JT will not be with us tonight because he is on a family trip, um, or he's at least with his in-laws anyway, part of the time. So he couldn't join us tonight, but we still want to have our little show and have a good time because I got some special guests they're going to be on tonight. They're friends. I'll explain this to you in a little bit. But I want to give you my run out first because this kind of hit me kind of hard today, and I'm really kind of curious to hear what they have to say about this. Is about the NILs and how it just happened to finally happen in high school sports today. So someone showed me about these two young ladies who are soccer players who signed a deal with Nike. And immediately just kind of hit me in a way where I was thinking, man, this is going to change the landscape of high school sports. That's for sure, in my opinion. We already see or know what it's kind of been doing to the collegiate sports. Um, it'll be interesting to hear what my guests have to say about this and whether they like it or not, because some people do, some people don't. But I'm awfully worried about what's going to happen when it gets down to full-fledged um, high school wise. So, a couple fun facts about it that we'll be able to talk. Right now, there are 9 states that actually offer it, where you can actually have NIL deals in high school. Texas is not one of those. I'll go into those once we get those back. There are still some people that have some consideration for it, but it's getting pretty interesting to me because I just I'm not real sure. How this is going to turn out. I'm not necessarily in favor of it as a high school athletic director, even as a high school coach. I think it's just going to open up a can of worms that if there's not really, really good legislation on it, it could be problematic. Okay. So, the guys that I want to bring in tonight, like I said, it's kind of a chain reaction. Twitter and social media channels lead for great opportunity to meet friends and people. And this kind of led this way and actually came up through cigars. So we're going to talk a little bit about cigars tonight as well. So the first guy that I met, he's actually, I call him a friend, and I think that our families are really close. We spend a lot of time together. We talk money, we talk football, we talk about life. Um, and so the only bad part about him is he's a Oklahoma fan, so I do have to put up with that. So the first person I want to welcome to the show, he has Big Daddy Boomer on his screen here. I don't know what that means about the Big Daddy and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to call him Boomer, but his real name is David. David, man, welcome to the show, man. Really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on. Yeah, look. So my daughter's already on here tripping. Talk about my gray hair just like you did. This next gentleman, I actually met through David, and we've become pretty close. Man, we got a lot of stories to tell about him as well. But another successful gentleman who he lives farther north, but he's a big football fan, big collegiate fan, big pro fan. Just a tremendous dude. Has a great family. Knows good cigars as well. Knows good whiskey. Like us, he knows how to make money too. I like being around people like that. His downfall is he is. I just mentioned to him, made a joke about him a little earlier. Is that we say he's a UT fan, anytime I hear UT, I always think of University of Tennessee. They claim to be the real UT, but this guy's a UT fan from Texas, the
Yes,
Longhorn.
sir.
Welcome to the show, Dre Day.
Hey, thank you, GT and David. Good to see you as always, man. Happy to be here. This is
Uh-huh.
gonna be fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be
Yeah,
fun.
man. So this is going to be a good time. I know we kind of talked about this before about getting on and spending a little bit of time with each other, but I think we can. We'll be able to do this again, regardless of how this comes out or whatever. But this is just a fun time, man. We're on Teague's Take. It's just normal old conversation, boys being boys kind of thing. You don't have to hold back anything. And I know you guys don't, because the way you guys text me at 11:30, 11:45 at night while I'm trying to sleep, I know how it is. So let's dive into this a little bit, guys, about this NIL stuff. What do you got? What do you really think about this? I want to go to David first, because I don't know if you've paid attention or heard any of it.
Oh, yeah.
So what's your first thoughts on it?
Well, it's been a long time coming. If you go back in history, back into the early 80s, Brian Bosworth kind of started that ball rolling when he got in that nice little tussle with the NCAA and all that other fun stuff. So obviously you fast forward to the way they have today, there's going to have to be some changes, but you can't take away the rights to your likeness because you're coming into high school or coming into college. Because if you look at, I forgot this, the video game that always had the players on it. So companies are making money off the likeness. Schools are making money off of their likeness. They have a fundamental right to profit from their likeness. Now, do I like the way it's being handled right now with some of the coaches? Not really. They're going to have to make some changes as they move forward, especially given it a time frame, because right now coaches are trying to poach players from other schools. We've seen some of the news reports about a certain coach out of USC that got into a little bit of a tussle with the Pittsburgh coach about their best receiver who entered the portal. And I believe that same coach went after a receiver out of the University of Texas as well. So I don't like the way that works. I think there should be a time frame for it. I think there should be some rules set forth that all the schools agree on. But, man, I have zero problem with those kids making money off of their likeness. I think it's great business. I think it's great for the schools. I think it's great for everybody. But it is going to knock some of these schools off the level playing field, because if they don't have the money, they don't have the donors, they don't have the businesses to pay for that, then you're going to see teams like Texas A&M's doing a great job of it, University of Texas doing a great job of it, Alabama, they're all doing a great job. Some of these smaller schools just don't have the support to rely on.
Yes, sir, and I think that's good. And Dre, I want you to reply to what he has to say too. But did you hear what he said early? He started talking about Boz and money. Is he admitting to what was going on
Right.
back then? Is that a sly way of saying they were already getting paid back then? Or what
Brother Boz knew what he was doing.
Well, he did have a fur coat and some jewelry.
He started
or
this whole thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's Switzer.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think about it, though, Dre? He said he's in for it.
Yeah, well, I think it's a two-pronged approach, right? So I think you have to look at it from the high school level to the collegiate level, right? So let's take the high school level first. I'm all for those two girls, making their NIL money in the high school level. The only thing I would cause pause to or cause concern to is that they are obviously under the age of 18, right? They're still in high school, whether they're sophomores, juniors, or seniors.
Yep.
We all know that even in today's workforce, right? We have employees that work for us, whatnot, and they bicker over money, right? They talk about, oh, why is so and so making X money and I'm not making the same dollar amount, right? So it causes some issue there. So can you imagine at the high school level, you have your teammates that are making X number of dollars, right, and then their peers aren't making that same money, and the kind of issues that would bring about, right? From not only from the kids on the team, but we also know how parents are with their kids too, right? About either playing time or et cetera, et cetera. There's always that jealousiness and enviness, right? And so I think it's good for the girls, but I think we need to be careful, right, on that regard. The collegiate level, George, I think you mentioned to it earlier. I think 8 states allow NIL. Texas isn't one of them, and I think it's one of the reasons why. And I'm not speaking for him. I'm just from what I've read over the past year or two. One of the driving forces that drove Quinn Ewers to Ohio State, I believe, right, is NIL, and then also Tom Herman. I think there was some issues there with the coaching staff early on, but he couldn't sign an NIL coming right out of high school because of the laws that prohibit that in the state of Texas. So I think it's good for the sport. It's a long time coming. But I'll also say this one last thing that I don't think anybody's talking about. The NCAA and colleges did a smart thing, right, on their behalf. They were willing to relinquish NIL rights to the individual players, right, so they can get paid and get their own money, right? But what they did not want to do is have them get paid by the universities, right? Because they become W-2 employees, and they would actually have access to the real money, which is that conference money that they're getting paid every single year. SEC is getting 52 million per team. So I think it's like, hey, let's let them have this money here, and let's still protect our kitty. That's how I look at it. So that's my opinion on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're right. And I don't know if you can see this comment down here on your screens, guys, especially Dre. He always seems to have a little bit of technical issues over there, which we're going to have to cover a little bit later too. But Michael was saying that college coaches are going to have to recruit their players every year, and particularly
I agree.
Yep.
Yep. I know that happens in college, but the deal is, this is what bothers me about it in the sense of high school, is because people, boosters, donors, and I'm only coming from a private school type place, where people are owning businesses, that they're essentially going to be paying people's tuition, and different things. And now you're going to have a lot of high school kids transferring or moving out of state or something because, Dre, you kind of alluded to it, the states that are offered right now are Cali, Alaska, Kansas, Colorado, Nebraska, New Jersey, New York, Utah. But the one that worries me the most is that Louisiana is also in the game now. They just jumped in, which is real close to home. These other ones weren't around us, but people will leave to move to Louisiana if they can go get some extra shoe money or whatever it is. And that's why I don't think it won't be long before Texas ends up getting in somehow. And
right.
And then think about the areas, the districts that have what do you call it, fellas, where you can move freely?
Open enrollment, no boundaries.
Open enrollment, where you might be able to jump from school to school, and that might be based on the parent who owns a business who wants you to come play with their kid, their daughter or their son.
Right.
But
you're seeing that now, GT. You're seeing that now without NIL, right? The high school level. So if Dave wants to go play at a high school that I'm at, if our team is good enough or better than his team, he's going to want to try to play, be on our team so that he can get that that increased visibility. So kids are hopping all across the board. I guess the question I have for either one of you two is, how do you think these kids are these high school kids, not the kids that are in high school that are already going to college, but the kids that are in high school that are still in high school, how do you think they're going to be able to handle that pressure of maybe being the only one or two people on a team getting paid? Because not all kids will be getting NIL money at the high school level.
No. Well, your 4-star, 5-star kids are about to get rich, huh, David?
Yeah. If you don't mind, I want to just kind of roll back for just a second, because it's not as though amateur athletes haven't been paid over the years. We have to look no further than Olympic athletes. These gymnasts are 14, 15 years old, end up on a Wheaties box, or skiers. So name and likeness, there's precedence for it, just of course not in college. And if I'm not mistaken, the NCAA wouldn't have any jurisdiction over a high school kid at all. So even if the NCAA decided that, you can't do that as a high schooler, they're going to tell them to pound sand, because that's money. And there's nothing wrong with it. So I just wanted to add that because it's been going on for a long period of time. Very young kids, they're going to end up with managers, coaches, things of that nature. It's now going to become a business for these kids.
That's right.
Well, that's yes, and you hit on that, and thank you for bringing it up because really, the reason why it's going to work, or why it probably will happen, is because they're still not actually getting paid to play. They're getting paid for their name, their image.
Right. So that's how they're getting away with it too, as well, right? Because
if you're a big because you still can. High school kids now can make money off of Instagram, social, YouTube or whatever. If they're Twitter famous, they still can get paid, and there's no violation for that. It's just like going to work; they're allowed to work. So in this case, I don't even know how you're going to regulate it. We've started talking about it here with our organization. It's a little bit, but it's very complex because, as as Big Daddy Boomer was talking about it, just you can't.
Can we just call him David? I'm not calling him Big Daddy for nothing.
I'm thinking about calling him Elf. I'm thinking about calling him Elfie.
Yes.
Here we go with the feet again.
Some of that nature. Well, that's one picture I don't. Well, I guess I should have uploaded that and put it in here. So
no, keep my feet out of it.
Mr. David likes to wear these slippers. I don't even think they're branded by Uggs.
It's for Christmas. Get the spirit.
I know, but you had them on in
the spring.
Ugly.
You might as well put on those rabbit feet.
My feet were cold.
Something. Well, whatever.
Brutal.
They're small
too. Here we go. Right down
whatever. They're small. They're tiny. That's all I know.
9.5. Come on.
Okay, 9.5. Whatever. I'm gonna give you 8 at the most. Put your hands.
Good day.
Put your hands up to the screen, David.
Hands are fine. Look at that.
What is that?
He's got the little hobbit hands.
He can't even hold a football. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's one of those little
on the ping pong ball. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Well,
it's going to be interesting. There's going to be some changes coming aboard. Like Michael put another quote. He said that kids are going to go to the highest bidder, and it's already happening. So there's going to have to someone's going to have to step in, and it's going to have to involve all the schools as well as the NCAA to agree on a framework for these kids. Because if you have your compliance office doesn't care, you can do anything you want. If you have a strict compliance office, they're going to keep their thumb over your neck and not let you get college in trouble.
Yeah, but dude, don't you? How are you going to control out here in Texas? How are you going to control Allen? How are you going to control Highland Park? How are you going to control Jesuit?
Don't know.
Or
can't control the high school kids. The college kids can. So,
well, they can't back out on what's going on in college. It's just kind of is what it is.
I just hope that these kids, whether it's their parents or these schools, get rid of home ec and let's put some financial education. If we're gonna start infusing the high school kids with that kind of money, and I don't think they disclosed the dollar amount right for that NIL for those two high school girls.
They did not.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if we're talking millions or hundreds of thousands or $500,000, but I think home ec is probably less important, and some type of financial literacy is more important, right? Because some of these kids don't know how to won't know how to handle that kind of money, right? And if their parents aren't sound either, it's going to make it even more challenging, because hell, we all know how we were as young adults, right? As young adults, even high school kids. I'm talking about like in our early 20s, right? We weren't the best. I know at least I wasn't.
Speak for yourself. I was about to say, speak for yourself. I don't know what you're talking about, man. I was an angel. Consuelo will tell you I was an angel. I didn't do anything wrong.
Oh boy.
Ever.
Need to bring her on the show. She'll set that straight.
Hey, we've seen that Alabama education. We know.
Whatever. Okay. Well, that's going to be a little. So before we get into the football piece, and I'll wrap up the NIL piece with that. So there are about 14 states who are under consideration about legally allowing the NIL to happen, and they're all still northern or out to the west. Um, so it's not very doesn't seem like it's very strong in the South right now. Other than Louisiana, everybody else it says confirmed prohibited, not just not prohibited. They voted to not allow it to happen, but I don't know if that's going to stick.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah, I agree.
uh, all right. Well, let's move into this because Dave, you kind of got me. I'm going to switch because what are you smoking on right now? What kind of cigar do you have?
Davidoff signature.
Davidoff. Okay. So is the Davidoff's, is this your go-to cigar or is there something else?
I'd say I probably smoke more Davidoffs than anything. I love my Opus, but I got my fair share of Cubans. But I just love the Davidoff line altogether. Signature, brand, anniversary, they're all great. They make the that's the one that I got. The the Winston Churchill line done by Davidoff. So they just have a great line just across the board. It's one of the best cigars out there.
Good smoke. It's a great smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that your go-to as well, Dre?
Yeah, I actually probably have to say there's a cheaper cigar that I actually like a lot. It's called Charter Oak. It's a very good everyday smoke. I like it a lot. But I have to agree with David. I like Davidoff as well. Eye of the Tiger is a really good smoke, and David actually blessed me with that one. And David, what's the other smoke we've been smoking actually recently? The Macanudo. The
Macanudo Vintage, the 2010.
Vintage?
2020.
Yeah, 2010. Yeah. 2020, right?
2010?
Yeah.
It was an 06
2020.
And a 2010. It's the vintage line.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's really good smoke. That is such a very light, creamy smoke. It's really good. For me, I can't speak for either of you, but I like a light smoke, light to medium body. I can't do full body. I'll be laying on somebody's backyard or somebody's floor.
So, I'm the same way. I like them strong.
Yeah, I don't do full body too much unless it's just one of them days where I feel like I need to have one and I need to go sleep because I'm like I can't do that. I'm kind of more on the medium side. I used to be on the light side, but now I think I've kind of progressed up a little bit more towards
the medium
body type smoke. But I love all of those. A friend David, he gives me the opportunity to try a lot of different cigars because his humidor is
ridiculous.
Vast.
He's got a mini store.
Yes. That whole office of his is now just a cigar place. It is a store, but so for me, I've kind of bounced around a little bit on what my go-tos is because Davidoffs were my favorite of all time. I think that's how I started. I ran into that on accident, just picking up a cigar out in Vegas. Overpaid for it, but whatever. But I knew I liked them, so that's always been my choice. Now I've kind of, I think I gave David one of these, the Definition cigars. That are made here in Texas. Those are pretty good, I think. But man, I can do anything. I think I don't tend to be. Maybe I should ask you guys where your price point kind of feels too, because I know for me, I used to be $8, $9, $10. Then it kind of went 11, 12. Now I'm at 20, 22.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I actually don't have a price point. I really don't. I smoke. I know cigars now that I can say that's a little bit overpriced for what that smoke is. But if you're in a situation where that's all you can get, you're gonna pay for it, right? But I don't think any of us really have a price point. I think it's really about, hey, I smoke what I like and I buy what I like. Period. Would you agree, David?
Yeah. A price point has never mattered to me. If I like the smoke, I'm going to buy it. I mean, I got a bunch of higher end cigars that I love to keep around and smoke every now and then. But shoot, I like going into the store and buying 5 or 6 at different price points, trying it out. If I like it, I'm going to buy more. So I'm just trying not to pigeonhole myself to a cigar.
Completely agree.
I was gonna tweet this out, and I may do it anyway because I was wondering what the most someone's actually paid for cigars out of my group of followers, because I know we have a lot of, and I've spent I don't know $40 for a cigar.
Which one? Do you know which one that was?
Yes, it was. Oh gosh, platinum. It's a black and silver case. I'm drawing a blank here. It's probably the concussions from the days.
Black and tan? You said I what? Black and tan?
No. I'll.
It was probably a black and mild.
Yeah, for $40. I don't think so. It's been a whole
40 cigars,
18-wheeler worth. It had to be. But I'll get that for you because I'm just drawing a blank on what that is. But I only said that because the other day when I went in just to try to pick up a little onesie twosie, there was I think it was a Cohiba maybe for like $85 or something. The guy was trying to sell it. And it might not have been a Cohiba, but it was something expensive. I was like,
and it probably wasn't even a Cuban Cohiba. It was probably a Dominican Cohiba, right?
He was like, "Oh, this is kind of limited." And I was like, he was like, "You want to get one?" I was like, "No, I'm a pass." So, all right. So, Dave, you kind of been giving some guys some advice about scammers on cigars. Tell us a little bit about that for those that listen. About how do you?
Oh wow! So there's so many fakes out there. Counterfeit cigars are the scourge of our favorite pastime. On Twitter, these guys will pop in and create a little Twitter page and show all these boxes. And I've probably gone after 10 scammers since I've been on Twitter. And I just get them in DM, start asking a bunch of questions. And I mean, I know they're fake in the first place because you can tell, but then they don't know what they're talking about. And you ask them about licensing and if they're distributing or all this other fun stuff. And inevitably, they block me. So that's what I go right back on because I've already taken a picture of their Twitter page and I just blast it out to all the brothers and sisters of the Leaf and just to try to help guys from not getting caught. You're getting convinced to buy a fake cigar, or just get scammed out of your money because they're just going to take it around.
Yeah, actually, I remember when I first met David. Also, too, those Twitter scammers love to post beautiful women with cigars. Right, to entice men to buy them. And I just remember this. I'm not sure who it was, but they were in my DMs like, "Hey, are you going to buy them? Are you going to buy them? Are you going to buy them?" And I actually I hit David up. I was like, "Hey, have you bought cigars from there? Do you know about them?" And he was like, "I wouldn't trust it." So I haven't been scammed yet, but I do know it's out there for sure.
Yeah. So they weren't smart enough to know that the lady doesn't come with the cigar for
she doesn't. She's not part of the deal.
Yeah. Look like Bama Animal must know his cigars and stuff. I see you got his little picture on here and things. So one thing I am trying to work on, this is breaking news to everybody. I kind of talked about it before. I teased it a little bit about, how much would you pay for a cigar? And one of our buddies, well, no longer our buddy anymore, David, that kind of got me on the kick of wanting to have my own cigar, kind of got me on this kick. But I met another person that I'm going to be meeting with in the next couple of weeks about, a George T. Limited edition cigar. It's not for me to try to make money on. I think it'd just be kind of cool to have a Defender of the Star or the strip cigar or something of that nature.
That's cool. That's
where
cool.
I could. Would y'all buy one from me, or do I have to give it to you?
Hell no! You better give it to him.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's good.
What? We have to buy? Buy what?
Right.
I'm just saying, I got to pay for packages and stuff, man.
You always take care of your own, man.
That sounds like a personal problem.
Well,
no, we got you. We got you. We appreciate you. We got you.
So what I'm going to say
We'll
to him is,
they better be good, man. Don't make me give a bad report.
So let me go ahead and bring in this topic since he wanted to go ahead and be smart with me and stuff. I think we need to go ahead and buy him a fax machine, Mr. Just
Mr.
because
you
know. So
I got a new one.
So David, well, me, Dre, and David, we do talk a lot about just random stuff. And if you could see our text message threads, you'd be like, "What the hell are these guys doing? And why are they giving banter all the time?" But that is what we do. And so, our friend here has been having some difficulties with electronics and computers and all this kind of stuff, and he happened to send us this picture one time trying to explain what he was up to, and there was this big old thing that me and Dave called a fax machine that he wanted to pretend it was a printer or something. Then we realized that he was still using dial-up in that portion of his house. He couldn't get on the podcast today because of something with his computer.
My Mac would not open up your podcast. I had to download Firefox or Chrome in order for me to open it.
Well, so, that's because everybody's Mac is spelled M-A-C. Yours is spelled M-A-C-K. You got to get it. Don't get the off-brand.
Hey, hey,
you know.
I bought them from the same place you bought your cigars from, so it's probably not.
That's right. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of football, fellas.
Yeah.
What do we think about?
Yeah, here we go.
So we're going to be early. We said, now I know we got 3 different folks in here, but we've all kind of talked about that we all wanted to go to the Alabama-Texas game.
We're all going.
You there?
Right? And I'm still thinking that we handle UT because actually the people that we play before them, and not that Saban's ever going to look past anybody, but they're not very strong opponents. So I think he's going to be that he's been focusing on Sarkisian and Texas the entire time.
Who y'all playing? Citadel before y'all play us? or Sisters of Mary?
It's somebody bad. I need to look it up for real because it's probably like Utah somebody.
Let's look.
Pull it up. Yeah, I want you to pull up the Alabama schedule.
It's not like UT has anybody strong in their schedule in the first game. I think it's UTEP.
No, we play
Oklahoma?
Louisiana.
I think Oklahoma
we play
is
Louisiana
UTEP.
Monroe. Yeah, we play Louisiana Monroe. Let's look.
On week 1?
Yeah. So you guys got Utah State.
Utah State. So we got Louisiana Monroe the second week.
Yeah.
Or third week.
Third week.
Guys.
Yep. So we have Louisiana Monroe. Then we have. That's right. Then we play Bama week 2.
So
it's going to be a drumming.
Oh, I should have went on and showed everybody the cigar I'm going to smoke after we beat Texas, because Andre bought it for me already, so I'm good. I'm just holding on to it till.
That's your celebratory cigar. That what that is?
Yes, it is going to be right. I'm going to smoke it right in your face too, right there. So what do you guys just
start smoking in the first half?
So what'd you guys do at quarterback? You got a quarterback on the Texas?
We don't have one. Sark hasn't announced one yet, right? But I think all signs are pointing towards Quinn Ewers as being the starting quarterback. But I do think we have 2 quarterbacks that are in the fold, right? Hudson Card, I think he's year 2 under Sark's offense, so he came into the spring with a lot of knowledge, right, from a year of experience, and we shall see. But I think Ewers will win out towards the end by fall camp. I think he'll win out.
Okay,
he's the most he's the most heralded QB that we have and that we have had since Vince Young. So I think the pressure, if he's producing, right? Say again.
You get the Gatorade Player of the Year like several years back, we ended up playing against that. Didn't he replace who was that quarterback he replaced in the national championship game against? Who was it? When they lost to Alabama.
Oh, no, you're talking about I can't think of his name right now. It saved my life. God,
He ended up at SMU.
Yes. What's his? Is it
He was
Gilbert?
Gatorade Player of the Year.
Gilbert.
It was just a total
Yeah.
flop, sadly.
Yeah, he was Gatorade Player of the
Gilbert.
Year. Yeah. He was Gatorade Player of the Year, but I don't think he was as heralded as Quinn Ewers was. So, yeah, we'll see. But we'll be ready. We'll be ready. I just hope it's like Sark said today, man. He doesn't care when the game is, whether it's during the day or at night. I mean, I prefer it to be a night game because I think the atmosphere will be a little bit more festive. It's going to be festive regardless, but you know how it is. Spend the day of the build-up leading up to the game. So we shall see.
Yep, David, you had a question down. David, you had a question down here. I want to go ahead and let you answer that. I know you've kind of said it to us already. But...
it's a Davidoff signature. That's what he's asking. What I'm smoking. Signature by Davidoff.
Well, that's right up his alley.
Yeah,
so
that's what I'm smoking next.
Oh, look at
Opus
you!
Lost City. That's my next one.
Oh, nice.
That's nice. That's
can't do it in the house. I get my butt kicked.
Me either. I think I'm gonna have to go out here and find me something. I'll see what I want to hit after we get done. So, all right. So, well, first of all. I almost made a crack a little bit earlier because I don't know if it was David that was saying something that someone was trying to recruit one of your wide receivers.
Oh yeah,
Xavier.
Yeah, there was speculation that Lincoln Riley or USC, I should say, was trying to recruit Xavier Worthy from Texas, but to no avail. He stayed.
Well, I was just wondering why they want to try to recruit anybody from Texas, but
wow.
You're making these kind of allegations. Why? The one person you'd have to get is your running back. What's the guy's name that had in fantasy football last year?
Oh, Bijan Robinson.
Bijan,
he's a stud. He's a stud.
So, do you want to give an over under on how many yards you think he has against Alabama?
Yeah, I actually think he'll probably have, because you guys have a very stout front seven. I think he'll be effective. I could be completely wrong, but I think he'll have under 100. But I think he'll be somewhere between 75 and 85 yards rushing. So
how many carries to get there?
I don't think it'll take him that long. I mean, I don't think he's going to have a heyday, but I think he'll be effective.
No, the thing that worries about him, and me and JT talked about this earlier in the show, is really not. I think we're better to stop the running game. I know it's going to be a heavy dose of it. I should say, control the running game. It's going to be if they throwing the ball out of the backfield where we're not very good at it.
Right. He catches the ball really well. Really well.
That's what scares me the most about it. And if Sark is smart, he'll try to exploit that. I don't know.
Swing him out in the flats. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I was telling David this yesterday. We had a conversation about it yesterday. I was like, Alabama's front seven is very, very stout, right? You guys are very, very good against the run. I think what Texas has to do is run the ball just well enough. I mean, I want them to run the ball great, absolutely. But I think I want them to run the ball just well enough that we force Alabama to honor the run, right? So we can have the ability to still pass the ball. Because if we become one-dimensional, it could get ugly for Texas.
Yeah. Well, now our defense is loaded, boss. I know. Our defense is freaking loaded. I don't know that we're as strong as we have been on offense, but on defense, we're going to be better than we were
last year. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. Dre and I have had a few conversations about it, and the way I see it, we talk real openly and honestly about our squads without any sugarcoating. The one thing that Alabama's not going to have to do is pull their safety up to stop the run. The front four from Alabama, if they control that line of scrimmage, Texas is going to have to end up throwing the ball, especially if they are not able to get defensive stops. They're going to have a very difficult time stopping that Alabama offense. So for me, if Texas gets behind, it's going to be really, really difficult. And the same statement I used with Dre is That front four is going to pin their ears back. And who's that outside linebacker? William Anderson.
Will Anderson. Will Anderson.
Alabama linebacker. Yeah. Will Anderson. They're not going to stop that kid. So for me, Quinn Ewers, if he's named the starter, oh, no doubt. If Quinn's the starter, he's not going to know. He's never have seen that type of speed because for all practical purposes, Alabama is just a semi-pro team. The speed overall is going to really blow his mind. And if Sark can be creative and maybe be successful with the short passing game, I think that's in keeping the Alabama offense off the field. I would consider giving the Longhorns a puncher's chance to make it close. I just think it's just a little too much too soon. That's no knock against Texas. Alabama's just too good.
No, listen, fellas. Listen, man. See, David, he texted me over here, give me these softballs. Hey, I'm going to say this. I'm going to set Dre up with this kind of statement. So he just gave me a softball.
Hey, go ahead.
So really, he's not telling the truth when he said Alabama is a semi-pro team because we're a pro team. We're good. It's not the semi. Not the semi.
Wow.
Texas is the semi-pro team. That's why they ain't have anybody drafted. Boom!
Wow! Hey! I have no argument there. Actually, I didn't expect us to have anybody drafted except for one player. That was Josh Thompson. He didn't get drafted, but if anybody has a fighter's chance, it was going to be him. He just didn't get drafted. But I think part of it has to do with the 6-year stretch, right, between Charlie Strong and Tom Herman of NFL teams and organizations not trusting Texas talent, right, coming out of UT, right? They have not, put out a lot of talent as they should, right? Let's be honest with you. Like I don't know if the word is soft with the team right now. I think historically maybe you can probably say that, but I think they're better now. But I just think that we lacked in production and producing NFL talent, over the past 6 years.
Yeah, well, I'm just giving. I mean, it's a program, a great program. So is.
No, you can talk. I don't care.
I just don't want you texting me later on crying, talking about, man, you too hard on me on the show.
Hey, look,
you hurt my feelings. All this kind of stuff. I don't need all that.
You know that. You come on now. No, but it should be a good game, man. It should be a good game.
For the first half, I think it'll be a good game.
See there.
Seriously, it's going to be hotter than Hades. So again, if that Texas defense is on that field too much in the first half, they are going to get annihilated in the second half.
David is right, and this is just me being realistic, right? So anytime you have deficiencies on a team, sometimes they can get masked, right? And so the one thing you want to do is we have to be able to get timely stops against Bama, right? We cannot continue to let Bama get third down after third down after third down, because your defense will get tired, for one, because they're on the field too much, and then if our offense doesn't move the ball, then we're done, right? But I think we're going to give a good fight. I really do.
Well, I just got
your offensive line worries me.
I don't know if theirs or ours. Ours is
no. Texas offensive line was
okay,
pretty terrible last year. So
tell us about OU then. OU, who's the signature game that you guys got to play? I mean, I should look at who.
I'll tell you who they play. They play us. That's their signature game.
Okay.
Can't deny that.
Their best, not their best game. Their best non-conference game will be, I think, it's week 3 or week 2.
Nebraska.
Nebraska. Is that on the road or at home?
It's not going to be an easy game. It's everybody knows the turmoil that Oklahoma went through this past year. Obviously, a lot of eyes were opened by all the fans, all the people involved, and they started to see how far off the program really was under Lincoln Riley. There's so many cracks in the armor last year. Even the games that I went to and some of the guys that I was watching the games with, and you'd see that team play, and they were supposed to be in the national championship game, supposed to have Heisman Trophy winner. All the hype was there, and they barely won the majority of the games. Some of them they blew some folks out on. We've definitely upgraded with the new coaching staff. It's been rejuvenated. The school's obviously behind their team when you have 75,000 at a spring game. I think Venables is the right choice. We're going to bring defense back to OU. Are we going to have some slip ups? Sure. Is it going to take some time? Absolutely. Are we going to be patient? Yes, because we're going to need defense going into the SEC. No more 50, 60 points a game. Or we're winning 56-49. That's got to stop.
Well,
got to stop. But I think preventables it will.
You were talking about us a little bit earlier, but I'm looking at your first two games too. You got UTEP and Kent State for your first two games, so I don't want to hear it.
Gotta have some warm-ups. But yeah, Alabama gets those in the middle of the season. I've seen y'all's schedule.
Right.
All of a sudden, out of the blue, you're playing Polytech out of Cal.
But that's called strategy, though. You knock off a really good team early because then it automatically boosts you up.
It does.
It boosts you up.
Well, you got to have the warm-up games. You got to do it. You just have to. Well, I don't knock anybody for doing it. But
there's a difference between warm-up games and like really, this is who we're playing. We're playing Sisters of the Mary. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Those are the warm-up games.
Whoever scheduled Alabama the second week of the season for Texas should be shocked because it's just such a contrast, especially if Quinn Ewers is the starting quarterback. You're going to go from playing whomever and you're going to get the false sense of confidence, and you have, we played well, which Texas has a habit of not playing well against lower competition, Kansas. But then you go against Alabama, and again, it's trial by fire. I mean, you have to go through this. If you're going to go into the SEC, if you're going to be competitive, you've got to play these teams. You have to have a measuring stick to start by.
This goes back many, many years, right? So Texas is really big and has been big and hasn't hurt us at times. Absolutely. But Texas is very big about playing Power 5 teams in the non-conference, regardless of – so this game versus Alabama wasn't scheduled last year, right? So it was scheduled 2 or 3, 4 years ago. Last year – who did we play last year? I'm trying to think who we played non-conference last year.
Arkansas.
My brain – so, we played Arkansas last year, right, and got our butts kicked because that was a big-time rivalry game. We played LSU in 2019. We played USC, as well, too, right? And we have Michigan come on the schedule. We have Ohio State come on the schedule. We have Georgia come on the schedule. So we have a history of playing playing Power 5 teams. The issue is that when you're going through so much change, it can hurt you, right? Hurt your confidence level because of the fact that you're playing these really good teams. And we've gone through 6 years of just turmoil. It's been hard. It's been a rough 6 years.
Okay,
bad coaching decisions.
So this Oklahoma-Texas game, it was a great game last year, by the way. It turned out bad. It was
a crazy game.
It was fun.
Crazy.
It was hot. It was hot in the mug. But it was a great game.
Was it hot for you, George? Because Dre and I, we were under a canopy. We had
we were in the shade. I felt great.
I know.
Where'd you get your seats? I mean,
I know. I don't
those terrible
know.
seats?
You know what? I introduced the guy as my friend, and I got to read.
They were free.
So how are we thinking about this one? Who's going to pull this one out? Is OU got the stronger leg this time?
I don't know. I never make a call in that game, in my opinion.
It's up in the air. This is just my opinion only. I will always say Texas is going to win that game, right? Because that's just who I am. But being realistic, I think sometimes because Texas has a hard time of controlling their emotions, right, when they play that game. And I think OU historically has done a better job against Texas in Red River rivalry, River Shootout, because they won it, X number of years recently that they understand what it takes to win that game, right? Where, again, we've had 6 years of inconsistency. We're just not there. I think Charlie Strong got one win. I think his last year, he beat OU that last year, and then I can't remember Tom Herman. I can't remember if Tom Herman won one. And
Tom Herman beat with Kyler Murray.
Yeah, that's right. So we got 2 of those, right, in the past X number of years. So I'll be the first one to tell you that OU does a better job of their team controlling their emotions in that game, because that's a game of emotions, right? And it showed this past year. I mean, hell, we were up big and we couldn't control the game. They got away from us.
Okay, well, all right. So that's going to lead into this next point. What are your fans, both of you guys, truly excited about coming to the SEC or not? What is the real deal out there with this? Is it a good move? Was it a financial move? What is it?
Absolutely. excited about it. I haven't heard from any of my friends that are Sooner fans that don't like the idea. Everybody's a little bit nervous about it. I think post Riley, we're a little bit less nervous because now we have a coach that believes in defense and is proven to be the best defensive coordinator in the country historically. His defenses were number one in the country outside of the SEC when he was with Clemson. The guy's been to 8 national championship games as a coordinator. So he's going to get that team ready for the SEC. We're going to have, it's no more, there's no more cream puffs. Every day, every Saturday is going to be a battle, whether it's Mississippi State, whether it's Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, and not so much. But, you rotate that schedule. A&M's becoming a powerhouse down there. Georgia, you get all those teams on your schedule. That's rough.
Will recruiting change? Areas, how, with you guys being over here, do you really just still try to hit all the Texas kids, Oklahoma kids, or are you trying to go into Alabama now and Georgia's and pluck off some of their kids? What happens here?
Oklahoma's always gone outside nationwide.
Yeah,
they've always been nationwide because we don't have the homegrown kids out of Oklahoma.
Yeah,
so they're already part of that.
Yeah, sorry, I think no, you're good. You're good. No, I think recruiting has changed for Texas since Mac Brown's gone, right? Because once Mac Brown left, the landscape was already changing. Ohio State, Michigan was already starting to dive in more than they ever have been, plucking those kids away, right? And then, LSU has always dived into Houston and plucked those kids away. And then once A&M joined the SEC in 2012, that opened the floodgates for A&M to say, hey, we're the only team in Texas that plays in the SEC, but it also opened up floodgates for Alabama and Mississippi and Florida to say, hey, yeah, you're from Texas, but you can play for us and still go to play in front of your parents, one game a year, whatever the case may be. So, and then Sark, they just came from Alabama, and so we actually signed one of your top D linemen out of Alabama this past year, Justice Finkley. And he looks every bit the part as a true freshman. I think he's going to be a great player. Actually, I really he's got great size. But no, I think the landscape has already changed. Once A&M went to the SEC, it opened that floodgate for those teams to start plucking players away. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, Oklahoma's been doing it for so long just because we don't have a state full of blue chip recruits.
Right.
So if you look at our recruiting classes, there are Florida kids out of the Northeast, California kids, Texas kids, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, in my opinion, I think it's going to help Oklahoma more than it's going to help Texas because Texas has always had top 10 recruiting basis for how many years now? They're always in the top. Oklahoma doesn't have that luxury. They've been in the top 10, but have never had the consistency with recruiting that Texas has had. And I think once we go into the SEC, that changes because kids want to play in the SEC. Now you've got the history of Oklahoma, and now you've got, we are in the SEC. Now you've got the best defensive coach in the country as your head coach. I think it ultimately pushes them into the top 10 a little bit more consistently as we get into the SEC.
Okay, so GT, just real quick before you, I want your opinion on that as well too. The one thing I think I have concern for Oklahoma and Texas going into the SEC in the Big 12, Texas and Oklahoma have the two, I would probably say, larger stadiums, right? That could be pretty rough. And Baylor's a little crazy too, but Texas and Oklahoma have very, very large stadiums, right? In the Big 12. I think when Oklahoma and Texas go to the SEC, Texas is already a target anyway, but Oklahoma and Texas will be big targets going into the SEC, right? They'll be everybody's. It won't just be Alabama's marquee game. Everybody's going to want to, make OU and Texas look bad. So their fans will be up for it, and I'll be curious to see how Oklahoma and Texas responds to those environments, right? Because you have the Swamp, you got Jordan Hare Stadium, you got Alabama Stadium, you got LSU, you got Georgia, South Carolina. Those are some very loud and raucous places. So I'll be curious to see how they respond.
Yeah, well, and you guys,
the expectations.
You figured it. I think it's going to be kind of. I'm saying like A&M in a sort that it's going to come. I think you guys, both teams, will come in and kind of cause a storm or ruckus. Everybody's going to be hyped. The coach, coaches are going to be hyped at OU in Texas. The organizations, the ads, the kids, and they got to prove that we're worthy. And I think they're going to knock some people off and beat some people.
Iron sharpens iron.
And then I think it'll kind of level back out a little bit maybe after that. It's kind of what I think. Yeah, I'm hearing what you're saying, but the good thing about it is, like you just said, Texas A&M and OU, your fan base, your stadiums, all are going to be, they're going to fit. Because if they're in, I mean, if you're going to play Missouri, which you guys already know about, or if you're going to play Vanderbilt or somebody, all right, whatever. Ole Miss's stadium is not. I hate it. I think it's trash. It's just.
But it's raucous, though, right? It's loud and crazy, right?
It is loud. Oh, it's banging now, but it ain't plush like your people want to have. The suites and all the other things aren't like that. So I think it's going to be fun games for everybody to go travel.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It'll be cool for Alabama fans to be out here in Texas and in OU. And I'm saying that because it's closer to me too. So my tickets will be a whole lot better. And I may be able to get some
absolutely
out this way, but it's going to be really interesting.
Alabama OU tickets, team.
Yeah, I know, man. I see, because I gotta check see if you're gonna have me in the
nosebleed,
in the shade, or where I'm gonna be at, man. This time. Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna have a couple minutes left. Because we're up at 57 minutes. We try to keep it right around 60, so we might go a little bit over here.
Okay, it's been good. It's been fun.
Oh man, it's been really good. I think this is awesome. We should have done this already. I think. So this is the last thing. So I want to give you I want to ask you a question, and it's kind of not a whole lot of discussion about it. Something I've been thinking about, and I mentioned this to some others. I feel like our college football, is potentially going to be led to where there's going to be one big old super conference, just because of the way NIL is going, the way it is, what we're going to do with the playoffs potentially. Does this go, and how this going to go? So, do you share my sentiment? Of that eventually there's going to be one big power conference of about 20 to 25 teams that are ultimately going to be the top 25. They're going to make all the money. They're going to go to bowl games. They're going to play for a national championship. That's kind of where I'm at. Am I way off?
David, what's your thoughts? I'll let you go first.
I think you're right. I think they are going to the haves and the have-nots. If they expand the playoffs, which eventually it's going to happen, especially with the power that the SEC has all across the nation at this point. I think that you're going to have an outlier from time to time. You're going to have a team like Cincinnati, who's going to have a senior-laden team, just like they did last year, got into the playoffs and such. But I think that it's going to be the SEC that rules the roost. It'll be interesting to see what Clemson does without Venables. It'll be interesting to see what Ohio State does. Michigan's coming around, possibly USC on the West Coast. But it's going to be fun to watch. But I think it's going to be the SEC is really going to manhandle the nation moving forward, because it's where all the money is. And it's where all the good teams are, the great teams. So the Texas-Oklahoma move, I think, was brilliant.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think I lean that way a little bit, but I also think there's too much money involved for these conferences to somewhat dissolve, right? The Pac-12, they haven't been as strong as they normally have in football, but I still think they have a dog in the fight. I mean, because right now, I think, how many teams do you guys have in the SEC right now? GT, 14? There are 14 teams? Right. So if you talk about adding Texas and OU at 16 teams, and then you talk about adding, 8, 9 more teams, give or take, that's not a lot of teams left. I mean, you talk about Ohio State, Michigan State, right? Probably USC. You can talk about Oregon. UW actually could, make a comeback. and then Clemson and Florida State, and so I don't know, man. I think at some point in time, as you see with NIL, as you see with the transfer portal, I think the NCAA is starting to make these regulations, or they're planning to make these regulations to kind of wipe their hands away, because I actually think the Power Five conference are going to create their own league per se, right? Where they actually have a commissioner and control the landscape of college football. I just really do. And maybe we don't have 5 teams. Maybe we have 5 conferences. Maybe we have 3 big ones in football, but maybe keep everybody separate for the Olympic sports, right? Because I think everybody wants to protect the Olympic sports as well too. So that's just my opinion.
No, I think that's a good one, and I appreciate that. I appreciate both of you guys' opinion, because I don't know. We'll come back during the season and we'll talk about what a real playoff structure needs to look like. We can debate that. Should it be?
This would be good during the regular season. This would be great.
Should it be 8 teams, 12 teams, 16 teams? My suggestion was to go to 16 teams.
Yes, I agree with that. I've always felt so years ago, and I know we were short for time, but years ago, right, the bowl games actually mattered. The kids really love going to the different cities and getting the exposure and the hospitality. But as you noticed, with teams and players opting out more because they want to make that jump to NFL and protect their investment, those bowl games don't matter as much as they used to, at least from a fan perspective, looking on the outside, right, looking in, right. Because you look at those stadiums, you're like, wow, they're pretty empty for a bowl game, right? For outside of your traditional Rose Bowl, Cotton Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, those bowl games, right? Those bowl games are like, I don't know. So it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, you're right. And what's the last bowl game y'all went to? Just for the record, what was the last bowl game Texas went to?
See there. We actually took a hiatus last year. We were
okay.
Toilet bowl. We had a rough 5-7, so we didn't go bowling last year. We went the year before, but it was tough, man. But I'll leave you with this. So, 3 years has always been that kind of that threshold of letting coaches go, right? But I think with Texas, for us, I think we have to let Sark do his thing, right? We can't keep pulling the trigger every 3 years. Yeah, you gotta ride that bad boy out, and if he hits in year, hopefully he hits sooner than later, right? But if he hits in year 4 or year 5, let that man hit, right? Look at Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh did great year 1 with Brady Hoke's players, and then he kind of tapered off, and then and he's been there 7+ years, and so he's finally hitting again. So we can't. If we want stability at Texas, we cannot go through coaching change every 3 years. Can't happen. You'll never find stability.
All right. Well, there we have it, man. I do appreciate you guys. You guys stay on the line right here for real quick while I finish this up. But we do appreciate everyone for tuning in. Make sure that you guys check me out on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, because I do have some promotions going on where you can win 4 items: Alabama jersey, Cowboys jerseys, a signed mini helmet from Alabama and from the Cowboys. And it may cost you something or it may not. There's certain things that you can do in there. You can get a raffle for following me, adding me, and also Millions.co, who's partnering with me on this. If you do buy some of my merchandise that I do have up on Millions.com, you actually get 25 entries at it.
Oh, wow.
That's definitely going to pay for everything anyway. And I'll be shipping the stuff directly to you. So get on there, man. Find out. Otherwise, we're going to be back in a couple weeks. So we'll take a hiatus next Wednesday. Then the Wednesday after that, JT and I should be back at it again, and we'll be getting close to getting full-fledged. We go bi-weekly right now, but once July hits, into July, August, we go every week to week, because football is happening every week then, and we'll be going at it and watching those Cowboys and see what's happening in collegiate football as well. So we appreciate you guys for joining us tonight, but we're going to call it a night. So we will see you later.